You guys have done phenomenally well. People start comparing India to China, and everything you see in this room today passed through a warehouse.
What's the most overrated business advice you have received so far? Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Corner Office. I'm thrilled to have with me someone who is making waves in India's warehousing and logistics sector, Mr. Anshul Singhal, co-founder and managing director of Welspun One. Anshul, thanks for joining us today. You have truly redefined India's warehousing and logistics sector. Before we deep dive into your career journey, I really want to know more about your early life. You started your academic journey with Jamnabai School, then moved on to Sydenham College, then Nursi Monji, and later moved to Georgia University in US, right? Give us a glimpse of your early life, starting from the school days, and how did every stage shape your path?
Yeah, lovely question. I've actually never spoken about this publicly. But even before my journey with school, I was born in a small town called Hisar in Haryana.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know about Hisar, but it's a town which has created a lot of entrepreneurs. वो बोलते हैं ना कि हिसार की मिट्टी में एक जादू है.
Oh wow.
So, Mr. Jindal, Sajjan
Right.
Jindal, and the whole Jindal family, the whole Goenka family, Mr. Goenka, the SL family, and many other big families which started with very humble beginnings have come from this little town called Hisar. So I think that was the more defining moment of birth. They say you don't choose where you're born,
Yeah.
but luckily I'm very proud to be born there. And then very early we moved to Mumbai, went to Jamnabai. Jamnabai was an amazing experience. Met people from all walks of life. It was a school where you had kids who were celebrity kids, you had business families, you had extremely humble families. And by the time I was 15, I had a bit of a silver spoon. My father was an industrialist. He was doing very well. But at 15, Dad went through a very big business turmoil, and we more than filed bankruptcy. So, our house was mortgaged in the bank, and it was very shameful for at 15, 16 to be worried about, going to a coffee shop with your friends and not having enough money to pull out of the wallet. But I also think that was a very good thing that happened in my life in hindsight, because that shaped my resilience. And I decided to, pick up the battle and take it in my stride. And my father always continued to motivate me, said that, these are just temporary challenges in life, and, continue to dream big.
Yeah.
This in a stage where we had almost no money to eat food, my father taught me to dream big. And I think that's just the luckiest part of my life, to have a father like that. Post that, Sydenham was just 11th and 12th.
Right.
And then I wanted to go to the US. It was a childhood dream for some weird reason to study in America.
Nice.
Right. And but we couldn't afford the fees in college. They call it school there, we call it college here. So pardon my mix of words. But when I finally decided that I want to go to the US, I started applying to all these universities, saw the bill, and I didn't even want to tell Dad about it because I knew he couldn't afford it. So I decided to take a student loan. And India didn't really have student loan facilities, back in 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
Back in 2001, 2002. And at that time, I ran around many banks. Long story short, got a 4 lakh rupee check, which just covered my first semester fee. And I promise you that 4 lakh rupee check, even till today, is more than 400 crores for me, because it was such a dream come true. I got the check at 2 p.m. I had a 2 a.m. flight. I didn't know till 1 p.m. that day whether I'm going to take that flight or not. Landed in the US, gave the entire 4 lakh check to my college, and then realized, I don't have any money to, live in the US. So I started doing all sorts of odd jobs. From my first job was in my college canteen, so I was washing dishes.
Yeah.
My second job was delivering pizzas. And then from there I worked moved up the ladder a bit. Actually, my favorite job was at Baskin Robbins, serving ice cream, because that got me connected to a lot of my friends, and I started giving free ice creams away. And I got fired from that job for giving free ice creams, but got me into the limelight in college, if you'd like.
Yeah.
And then I became chairman of the campus activities board in college and started working for the president in the library, and finally did my graduating internship working very closely with the White House, Pentagon, where we used to show, we ran internship programs for kids who were working with the White House. So I got closely connected and was landing up in, the Oval Office at some point, or had a chance to visit the Pentagon, had the chance to visit all these amazing big monuments, meet all these massive personalities who were celebrities, Hollywood celebrities, to presidents, to business entrepreneurs. And what I noticed in them, that they were always very humble. When I met them, such accomplished people. As an impressionable young boy, I always had this imagination of successful people being unapproachable,
Yeah.
snooty, or somebody larger than life. But when you met these guys, they were just normal human beings, and they always treated us really well. And I started picking up skills and understandings of how to treat people, how to behave with people, even when you've reached a certain goal. So I think that was the best experience from my internship, working closely with these big government bodies. And then came the next challenge of my life is, once I almost made it through college, I got a call one day that my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Oh.
So I had a choice whether I go back home and spend time with my mother, or I show up at a funeral and graduate.
Yeah.
And the most difficult but the most simple choice I ever made was, I'm going to drop out of college. I'll worry about it later. I am doing a OPM program with Harvard Business School
Okay.
now, by the way.
Right.
So I'm getting the tag back. But I chose the latter, and I came back to India, and my mother lived for a whole year, and I spent that whole year with her, and decided to stay back. So I think my early years, from Hisar to Bombay to Jamnabai to Sydenham and then to the US, and going through all that family turmoil at the back end, really shaped who I am today.
Yeah.
And one thing it removed from my mind was fear. After seeing all that at a very young age, after washing dishes and making your own buck, and then ending up working with big government bodies, to coming back to India and supporting my mother, I think the fear was lost. It just became about resilience. So yeah, that was a little bit about my early years.
That's very interesting. A very roller coaster kind of a
Yes.
childhood, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you look back, was there any particular movement, mentor, or experience that you think sparked the idea of setting up a business or get into real estate for you?
Great question. So I think the biggest mentor of my life has been circumstances.
Yeah.
Halat.
Yeah.
The circumstances have kind of shaped me who I've become today. But the other big mentor of my life, losing my mother at the age of 21, has been my father. He's been my mother, my father, my friend, my confidant for the last 20 years. And even today, when I go home every day, 40 minutes I spend with Dad first. He lives with us very proudly, and then I move on, and then I'm okay the next morning.
Right.
But yeah, coming to the real estate side of things, I always was fascinated by larger than life structures. So even when I studied in the US, or when I visited these foreign countries, I saw these massive buildings, and somehow I was just drawn to them and attracted to somehow being part of building these buildings or making these buildings come alive. How suddenly from a piece of land you have a whole ecosystem come to life. You have people, you have taxes generated from that building, you have employments, jobs, you have experiences, communities, emotions that get attached to that building. And I think that drove me very, very, very strongly. And without realizing it, I just gravitated towards trying to start building them.
Right.
And that's when JSW happened, where I met Mr. Jindal, the visionary, and I proposed to him that we want to make this structural steel facility. And he already obviously knew about everything. I mean, I was just a little kid, so he allowed me to kind of go ahead and take that punt, and that's when we created a very good structural steel facility building. So at a very young age, I learned how to manage pan-India projects, At a time I remember we had 16, 17 large project sites running across the country. So it was very fascinating to be able to manage cross-cultural teams, understanding how people from the south think very differently from people from the north. I mean, India is not just any ordinary country, right? It's like many countries in one. And then at a young age, starting to realize how to work with these teams in a hard assets business just sparked my passion even further, which ultimately, long story short, led to warehousing.
I was going to ask that, how did you enter warehousing? Primarily, what drew you into warehousing as a sector? Because it's not a very common career choice.
It's not. When they say beggars can't be choosers. So I got into warehousing out of lack of choice. But as soon as I got into it, it fascinated me so much because I realized it's complete white space. There is nobody in it. There was, at the time when we started our first business, I was a CEO with Embassy Industrial Parks, where Warburg Pincus and Embassy had formed a joint venture, and we started building warehouses across the country. But there was another couple of companies who were doing it, and I traveled the market, met 100 customers, right? So the first step I said is, let me meet the customers and understand if there's a real need for this. Because if I'm going to choose to spend the next 10 years of my life in this space, then I better be sure. And by the 50th customer, I had known that there is unlimited space. And the choice became simple. I said, I found a space. I like hard assets. I like building stuff. I have pan-India project experience. All I need to learn is how to buy land and get approvals. And that's when warehousing happened. Luckily, it happened with great backers like Warburg and Embassy at the time. So we started it the right way. We started it with a lot of governance, a lot of cleanliness, a lot of hygiene, a lot of above board way of buying land. And then I started enjoying buying land, right? So buying land, I always saying buying land in India is not you can't learn it in any college or any school. It's an art. It's not a skill. And I think that somehow fueled creative juices in my mind whenever I used to meet landowners or deal with them, or even sometimes farmers and government bodies for allotments. I just naturally enjoyed that process. Even today, the part of the business I enjoy the most is buying land.
Wow.
Everything else is something I do because I have to do it. But this part of the business I enjoy the maximum. So that's how I got into warehousing. And then of course, as we got in and we went forward, we started buying land, building buildings, signing leases. My first lease I signed was with Mahindra Logistics, was the starting, and that gave me the confidence that, and that, the gentleman who was on the other side, Mr. Sushil Rathi, he's still on our board today. He's been a mentor. And we closed that deal in 5 minutes, right?
Wow.
So we met for the first time. He said a number. I put my hand forward. It was a shake hand deal. And that started the confidence saying that, okay, I can lease. And from there on started the customer journey. And today, of course, warehousing has completely changed. Over 10 years, I've seen first mile where, next day delivery was a big thing. So when we started, Amazon, Flipkart, all these companies were all about next day delivery. I have to deliver, because that time it was within a week.
Right.
If you remember, we used to go online.
I know.
People used to worry about putting their credit card online. Forget about Paytms of the world. And it used to come after a week, and most people were okay with it. Then I think these companies realized that if we can deliver it next day, we'll get more wallet share of the customer. So we were trying to build these massive, fulfillment centers, FCs, which had a massive throughput to deliver next day. And we delivered quite a bunch of these. I think in the previous platform, we delivered about 17 million square feet of space, which is, that platform then exited to Blackstone, as you know, still the largest exit till date in Indian warehousing. After that, when we started Welspun One, it had completely changed. It went into this same day delivery. And I said to myself, same day, India, no chance, right? There's no way. These guys have gone crazy. But to my surprise and pleasant surprise, these resilient businesses just figured out a way so innovatively in an extremely complex country like India to be able to deliver the same day. And I think that's just hats off to all these businesses and their leadership teams. And of course now, now it's gone to all quick commerce.
Right.
So which is just
Yeah.
e-commerce on steroids, as I always call it. Yeah.
Picking on the point of buying land, we all understand the science around it. Check the title, do diligence around a lot of things. The art, what for a beginner, how do we choose land where the capital value appreciation comes up significantly for us?
See, land buying is so it depends on what purpose you're buying it for.
Right.
So if you're buying it for a family investment, it's very different.
Right.
But if you're buying it for a warehousing business or an office business or a residential business, it's very different. And I think everything starts with data. Very early in life, I realized that research and data. In fact, I can name one of the gentlemen who told me, do your research properly. And it's Mr. Niranjan Hirandani. He always told me that research is the most important tool in real estate. So we started spending disproportionate amount of money and time in doing research. We started collecting market data, benchmark rentals, demand supply gaps, where customers want to be. So there are about 30 to 40 customers in warehousing, which will give you about 80 to 90% of your business.
Oh,
that's it. That's
okay.
the universe,
wow.
Right? So we got really close to these 30, 40 customers and started getting with 90% certainty their next 3 years plans and 70% certainty the next 5 years plans.
Mm-hmm.
Once we had that, effectively we had demand.
Yeah.
And we did it ourselves. We didn't work with consultants at the time. We then started getting land data from registrar offices to see who all are buying land, how much supply is available. We then started realizing these pockets of gaps between supply and demand. And we focused our energies in buying lands in those new unique areas where nobody was looking, but the demand supply gap was obvious.
Right.
And once we started looking there, then it's all about title, transaction,
right.
clarity of land, size, shape. Buying land in India for warehousing is like finding God, because you literally need everything to be perfect, which is never going to be the case. So you always have to make do. We got into the element of designing around the land and not buying the land around the design, and went from there.
That's interesting. And Anshul, you have built 5 businesses from grounds up. I can't think of any other person to give us some, right entrepreneurial advice. So what would be your top advice to the budding entrepreneurs out there?
I hate giving advice because all my 5 businesses that I built, I guess scale. See, for an entrepreneur, there are soft elements and hard elements as you build a business, right? So the soft elements is really your value system when you're starting a business. And I think it's very hard to stick with them. And I think that is where you have to draw a line. So for me, honesty, transparency, integrity, not overcommitting to returns to banks, to shareholders, to investors, to employees has been the hardest part. Because it's so easy when you have a little bit of power, it's so easy for people to believe you. And if you tell them anything, they'll believe you. So I think I've always stuck with being very, very close to my value system.
Yeah.
The business advice, I would say, is know yourself, right? I'm not a tech guy, right? So for me to get into a tech business would have been a disaster, right? I don't understand how to code or how to come up with the most amazing software or to stay ahead of trends. But I do understand how to buy land. I do understand steel, cement, construction, civil. I do love hard assets. So I think aligning yourself by knowing yourself better to the business you're about to do is the most important piece of advice. And then whatever you do, think big. Like, just think big. Because if you don't think big, you don't think scale, even if you fail, right? Even if you go and say, I'm going to build $1 billion business, and you end up failing, you'll at least end up building $100 million business. So you failed 9 times, but you've still been more successful than 90% of the people out there.
Right. That's true. That's true. And I recently came to know that you took your 14-year-old son to delivery warehouse. So I'm curious to know what was the context with taking this field trip, and also what was his reaction seeing such massive operations at so close.
So my son Agastya, he's already far ahead of me. He thinks he's my dad, but
that's for everyone.
That's what everyone's sons thinks. Today's kids today are like 14 is probably when we were at 19, 20. I think as a legacy, I just wanted him to see what dad's doing. He knows dad's building warehouses. But I think if he saw one in action, and no better warehouse than the delivery sort center that we built in Bhiwandi, it's India's largest sort center.
Oh, wow.
It's completely automated. I think delivery's done a phenomenal job. We worked very closely with them, with Sahil and his team to deliver this warehouse on time. So we've delivered it in 10 months. It's close to 700,000 square feet of a warehouse, which is extremely large. And as Agastya walked into the warehouse, he saw all these multiple packages running around, stuff he orders online. He pointed out to a PlayStation, and I'm like, see, there you go. That's where it comes from. So I think just wanted to give him an experience of how back-end life works, and then move away from all the glamour that kids see nowadays. Just center him a bit. And I think it worked well. I think he enjoyed it, and he wants to go visit new warehouses now. So that's a plus.
Oh, perfect.
I'm taking that as a victory.
Yeah, that's a good one. We can pick up some cues from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So let's shift gears a bit and talk more about Welspun One. Can you give the overall vision of Welspun One, what all comes under its umbrella, and how it has evolved since inception? I think you started the company probably in 2019, just before pandemic.
Yes.
So give us a perspective on Welspun One.
See, Welspun One, has been a vision of mainly, our group chairman, Mr. Goenka, always says that whatever we do, we have to be the best at it. Otherwise, it's a waste of our time. And I completely agree with him. When we started Welspun One, we started with a vision that we want to make sure that we don't necessarily need to be the biggest or the most profitable or the baddest warehousing company that is, but we want to be the most preferred company. And preference is a choice of the customer. So if the customer had two choices, where he had warehouse ABC and warehouse Welspun One, he wants Welspun One. Why? Because of the solutions that we are able to give him, because of the flexibility that we're able to offer, because of the involvement in design that we're able to bring out, because of the services we add on along with our warehouses. And that preference has been the vision. Now that's easy to say, but when the rubber hits the road and when you start meeting customers, it's very hard to deliver. And I think that's been the vision from day one. That preference has led us to now build India's first last mile logistics center. We're building a massive building in Thane, which is a 1,000 crore project, which is warehousing at the bottom, office at the top, F&B on the roof, and retail on the ground.
Oh, where is it?
This is in Waghly Estate.
Okay.
And we actually got co-branded with World Trade Center.
Nice.
So it's called World Trade Center Thane.
Nice.
So World Trade Center Thane now belongs with Welspun One. And that's a project that's, warehousing rentals across India are 25, 26. This project we're starting at 140, 150.
Wow.
And we're seeing actually more demand for last mile and quick commerce warehousing within the city in terms of rental and in terms of offtake than we're seeing for office.
Right.
Because there's a lot of office supply, but there's no in-city warehousing supply, right?
Yeah.
So that's something we gravitated towards because we realized that the customer prefers these clean, fully compliant structures with ramps. And then similarly, we're building a very large project inside JNPT port, which is a 3,000 crore project, which is a ground 1-2 structure where it facilitates trade. So I'm able to now cover the entire ecosystem of customers from goods coming into the country, into an SEZ, to goods going to a fulfillment center or a sort center like delivery or an Amazon, to then doing the last point of delivery. So, that's how we've tried to vision our company, whereas most companies in the space have tried to stick to the first mile big box warehouses.
Right.
We've actually graduated much, much faster to new age process. Now that was a big punt, it was a big risk because these are not small projects. But as soon as we did our research, as soon as we went out to the market, we did a lot of focus groups with customers. We sat them down, we showed them the designs. And initially there was a lot of like, what are you guys doing? It's never going to work. And whenever somebody says to me, it's never going to work, I'm like, we're on the right track.
Yeah.
And then we went back, and as we took customers through the journey of the design of the building, they started feeling involved. They started feeling like they're a part of the building. And we started signing leases. So our warehousing park in JNPA, already has close to 1 million square feet signed, pre-signed.
Wow.
We haven't even, fully started construction yet. Our Wagle World Trade Center project has a pipeline of upwards of 1 million square feet. The whole project is 1 million square feet. So things are going pretty well on that area. So that's how we vision warehousing: preference, customer first, new age, innovate, think out of the box. And just passion.
Perfect. Perfect. In terms of scale, where do you see Welspun One 5 years down the line, and how do you see more innovation along the way?
Yeah. So today, Welspun One is roughly at about an AUM at peak capacity of 10,000 crores,
Okay.
which is secured, AUM, which is land we have, we own. By the next 5 years, this number will become 3x just automatically, right? And I'm talking at cost, not at value.
Right.
Right. So 10,000 crores is at what we entered at.
Got it.
Even if you start adding a 1.7, 1.8 multiple to every investment that we make, we normally deliver between an 18 to 25% return on each of our projects. The value is multiplied by that much.
Got it.
And we've raised 2 funds at the moment. Fund 1 has been 500 crores. It was a small maiden fund. Fund 2 is 2,000 crores. We're just about to close another 1,000 crore round within Fund 2 as co-invest. So Fund 2 will effectively become 3,000 crores. Our Fund 1 is tracking an NAV of 18%.
Nice.
We've already given 2 exits with money back to investors at 18, 19%. And our Fund 2 is actually tracking an NAV of 25%, between 24 to 25%. And it's, of course, the vintage of Fund 2 is 1 year. Vintage of Fund 1 is about 3.5 years. We're launching a 3rd fund sometime in October, November this year, which is another 4,000 crores. And hopefully, we have enough pipeline in place already to, as soon as the fund starts coming in, we start deploying.
Got it.
So that's the big numbers. 11,000 crores today, 30,000 crores in the next 5 years. We do plan to take these assets into an InvIT or a core or a REIT or an IPO. We're still waiting for some of the early movers to see how the performance comes. I always like a late mover strategy rather than an early mover strategy. You always don't want to be the bakra. You want to have some proof of pudding. So luckily we'll have enough of that by the time we decide.
No, I know what you're saying. So there's always also some advantage to being the first.
Yeah.
We were the first co-working to get listed.
Yes.
So we reaped some benefit around it.
Absolutely.
It could have backfired.
You guys have done phenomenally well.
Yeah.
I'm sure that took a lot of
effort
of sleepless nights.
Yeah. It did. And you touched upon quick commerce. What my understanding is that the dark stores or dark warehouses inside the cities are picking up significantly because of the rise of quick commerce. Do you see larger players also coming into dark stores? Right now, it's very unorganized, very fragmented kind of a play.
Larger players in terms of customers or developers?
Larger players like you coming and managing it, for like what you're doing at Wagle Estate.
Yes, absolutely. See, there are 2-3 parts of dark stores, right? Even dark stores have now gotten categorized into micro fulfillment centers, which are slightly larger. So 10, 15, 20,000 square feet. Then there are these absolute last mile centers, which are like between 3 to 5,000 square feet. And then there are these micro centers, which are like literally dark stores where you just need presence in, say, a Bandra or a Pali Hill or a, some heart of Delhi city or, Indranagar in Bangalore, where you just need that presence to deliver a particular set of products which the AI of these companies or the algorithms of these companies know that an Indranagar will have demand for example, iPhones. Right? So there are 3-4 categories. We are currently focusing on the first category, which is the larger spaces. But I see a very big organized play on launching 30 to 40 centers at one go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Why not? Like say if you can have tie-ups, you can even pick up like 5,000, 10,000 square feet places on rent and re-rent them. So we're toying with lots of ideas, but I see this becoming in the next 5 years a super organized play. Personally, I'm always the only one who thinks so. And my warehousing colleagues say that there comes another idea, which is crazy, but time will tell in the next 5 years.
True. Yeah. And with respect to the overall warehousing segment, how do you see this sector in emerging markets versus developed country? What differences do you see in terms of, let's say, opportunities or challenges?
See, I think India is unique,
Right.
as always.
Yes.
People start comparing India to China and XYZ, and
Right.
it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
India is the only country in the world which is able to successfully run this QCOM model.
Right.
And people say it's cost of labor. I don't agree. I think it's many factors that have led to this. We are a complicated city. Like, let's look at Mumbai. I mean, where is the space to,
Yeah.
if you want to go and buy an item from a shopping mall, you need to take 2-3 hours off. In
Right.
today's corporate life or work life or entrepreneurial life, or even if you're doing a very, very normal job, it's very hard for you to make that time with the family. You just go on your phone, press click, it's there in 10 minutes. Why wouldn't it work, right?
Yeah.
So I think, personally, I think this model is here to stay. I don't think this model will get challenged. I do think that the discounts will disappear,
Yeah.
like they did in e-commerce, and it will come back to normal. I do also think that as time progresses, it's becoming so habit forming that it will become life. Like, I don't think people will always want to go to a physical store before ordering stuff. At the same time, I think retail will continue to boom, right? I don't see retail dropping, or I don't think it will take away market share from retail. I think there's equal space for both in India to stay, because there are a huge set of customers who still like to go and have that experience,
Right.
or time out with the families, and enjoy that shopping with the kids running around with the shopping cart and pick up stuff and bring it home. So both have a very solid place. And please remember, India is so big. It's a
Yeah.
multi-billion-dollar economy. It's going to be a trillion-dollar economy soon. Whatever you create, and if there is demand for it, it'll sell.
Yeah. Globally, which would be the largest warehousing company, and what would be the kind of scale they would have achieved?
So to my knowledge, the largest warehousing company globally is Prologis.
Okay.
I don't know the exact numbers, but they are very large.
Yeah.
They are upwards of $100 billion in terms
Wow.
of market cap. I also believe, and this may be a one-sided belief, but I also believe that warehousing globally is the largest real estate sector.
Could be,
Because
yeah.
it's so core to the economy, and it's also the least fancy sector, right?
Right.
We are the guys who are
behind that.
always at the back end.
Back
There's
yeah.
hospitality, which is hotels. There is residential, fancy residential. Then there is office, and then warehousing comes somewhere down the line.
Right.
But at the same time, we are very core to the economy. So when lockdown happened in 2019, when COVID happened, everybody realized that everyone needs a warehouse.
Right.
Nothing can come without a warehouse. Everything you see in this room today, every piece of item, the camera, the cup, the table, our clothes, has at some point passed through a warehouse.
Right.
So it got declared as essentials, right? And while everything was shut down, warehouses continued to operate. So even during COVID, we collected 98% of our rentals, right? There was no delinquency.
Right.
Customers got permission. They started running the warehouse, obviously with the necessary safety measures in place. So that's my view on warehousing.
Right. And how do you see adoption of artificial intelligence or robotics in Indian warehousing sector?
I think it's got a huge play.
Yeah.
I think AI, so I'm a AI enthusiast.
Yeah.
I've done a few courses and I try to show off my skills,
Right.
at least to my 14-year-old, if nobody else believes them. But I genuinely feel that in warehousing, the supply chain of any country is complex, specifically in India, because we don't have point-to-point connections so well defined. AI will play a massive role in streamlining that supply chain, in predictive analysis. It's already started. Companies are already doing it. There are large tech companies which are working with logistics companies, like a DHL, like a Kuehne+Nagel, like a Delivery, where they are embedding both hard AI and soft AI. So, software will come in first. The brain power will come in first. I think robotics still has some time to take over. But in warehousing, the basic robotics, which are, these bots which pick up items from one place within the warehouse and drop, they're already in place, right? I've seen a very interesting warehouse in Japan. So whenever I go on a holiday, I first go see a warehouse.
Right.
And obviously there's issues around that at home, but that's okay. So I've seen a very interesting warehouse in Japan, which was fully robotic, right? So this would have been a close to 1 million square feet warehouse, which had hardly any human beings inside.
Wow.
But then we went on the side and saw there was this huge army of people running the AI.
Running the AI.
So my view on this sector is like, just like when computers came out, everybody said, "Arey, it's going to take away all the jobs."
Right.
My view on AI has always been that it will create more jobs. You'll just have to upgrade your skill sets better.
True.
So some of the repetitive tasks will get taken away by AI. But those same people, if they are resilient enough to learn and upgrade themselves, I think the demands for jobs will actually go up.
True.
That's my view.
True. I'd love to hear your thoughts on shared economy models, like our model of co-working and then co-living.
I'm a lover of co-working.
Yeah.
So all our offices across India are co-working, everywhere. I don't see the personal point of getting your own office.
Yeah.
Because that's not my business. My office is not what I'm supposed to focus on. My business is what I'm supposed to focus on. So companies like an office should be focusing on the office. So for example, when I lease warehouses,
Right.
that's my problem. You run your warehouse, I'll give you the warehouse. We started as a 30 people team. We started as a 4 people team, which became a 30 people team. Now we are a 200 people team. And just the flexibility of being able to grow with the office, with the space, was so easy to expand, meeting rooms being available, not to worry about electricity, about rent, about security, cafeteria being available, food being available. If something breaks in the office, or something doesn't work, if the plumbing doesn't happen, it's not my problem. You just call the maintenance team, they immediately fix it. So I think co-shared offices, co-living is a place to be. More important than convenience is also the community factor. I remember when co-working started, you started, the whole concept was finding your vendor in the same office, finding your customer in the same office, finding a friend in the same office,
Right.
having social events there. So I think, as society transforms into this social media driven digital economy and people are getting lonelier and alone,
Right.
I think that co-working provides this amazing opportunity of bringing people together. Similarly, at night, when you go home, if you have a co-living environment,
Yeah.
where you can get a community feel, especially for people who are, doing a Monday to Friday, traveling to a different city, or bachelors, or people who are separated. If they live in a community environment, studies have shown time and time again that living in a community environment not only enhances your life, but improves your quality of life, your
Right.
mental health, your performance at work. So from every angle, I'm a true believer of co-working office and co-living spaces.
Perfect. That's music to my ears.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So Anshul, now we shift gears and we move to the next segment. This is audience's favorite segment. This is called the rapid fire round.
Okay.
So just quick answers.
All right,
and,
I'll try my best.
Just say the first thing that pops into your head.
Okay.
Let's go.
Let's go.
What's the most overrated business advice you have received so far?
Most overrated business advice is do what you love. I don't believe in that at all. I don't think you can do what you love till you have failed multiple times and figured out what you're actually good at, aligned yourself with that, and then if you've done it for 10, 15, 20 years, then you say, I love this and that's why I'm doing this. I believe in do what you love. Otherwise, I think do what you love is absolutely, if I could say the word, rubbish.
Perfect. What's the last book or podcast that changed your thinking?
The Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. And what's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure, wow, that's a tough one. I think binge watching TV shows, especially sometimes over a weekend, I would just pick up a crazy TV show and just binge watch it for 10 hours.
Yeah.
And actually, funnily, it relaxes me.
Right.
And at the end of those 10 hours, my brain is completely squashed. And then I get some great sleep and I'm back to work the next morning.
If you could swap life with someone for a day, who would it be and why?
I would normally not say this, but in the present circumstances, Elon Musk.
Okay.
Because I just want to get into his head and see how he thinks. I think, besides all the controversies that go around him, he's a visionary. He's created things that, from planes to rockets to cars to, which nobody's been able to create. So yeah, for a day, I'd love to be inside his brain.
Yeah. So one popular misconception about the warehousing industry?
That it's boring and transactional. It's very exciting.
Okay. Given a choice, what would be your favorite locality to live in, India or abroad?
India. All day of the week, twice on a Sunday.
Which locality in India?
Between Bandra to Worli. is what I like. I mean, I'm a car wanderer boy. I lived there all my life. I'm starting to like Wally because I love the sea.
Right.
And if you can get something where I can get maybe I can't afford a dead sea view apartment, but even if I can get a peek of the sea, I think it'd be very exciting.
Yeah. Which QCom or ecom player would you bet to scale the fastest?
Oh, that's an easy one. Swiggy and Amazon.
Oh,
I think Swiggy is a phenomenal customer servicing brand. They have managed to build themselves up really well, and I've seen the growth happen. Amazon's always been my favorite e-commerce company. I think they have their stuff in order. They're very organized. We work closely with both the teams, by the way. Both of them are my tenants.
Right.
And I've seen them working very hard at such little details that it shows the resilience of those two businesses trying to better experiences for their customers.
Yeah. If you could instantly acquire one company, which one would it be?
So if I could instantly acquire, maybe not a name, but I would acquire a service company which can offer services to my existing tenants so that they don't have to depend on outsourcing multiple things. And most likely, a very unlikely choice, but a manpower company,
Okay.
right? Because labor is becoming and manpower is becoming a big challenge for my clients. And I think if I could get into that business somehow and provide pickers, packers, logistics movers, train them, set up a training facility, and offer a warehouse with people, I think that will be a game changer for my customers.
Thank you, Anshul. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with
My
us.
pleasure. Yeah.
I wish you all the best and look forward to seeing you take Welspun One to new heights.
Thank you, Sumit, for having me. Yeah, you're a tough question master.
No, it was great fun, Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
That wraps up today's episode. Until next time, this is your host, Sumit Lakhani, signing off.